So remember when I said this was never happening again? I lied. I'm a lying liar who tells lies. Hi, I'm Abby, I have a lot of records, and this is Modern Classics Month, Part 3. So welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. Mod Month is the 4-part mini-series where I showcase modern classic albums the whole month of May. If 30-minute episodes aren't your thing, don't worry. I also do 60-second versions of all of my album reviews here on my channel, over on my Instagram, as well as TikTok. Straight up, this third installment of Modern Classics Month broke my video formula. That's because this week I'm covering maybe the most intensely private artist I've ever featured on this channel. We know next to nothing about the inner workings of this woman's life. All we know is what she tells us in her songs, and even then she's not nearly as explicitly clear as, other artists she's inspired. So this week I'm doing something I've never done before, uncovering the backstory through the music. And I feel this album is perfect to do so with. Modern Classics Month Part 3 is Lana Del Rey. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? Or Ocean Boulevard, as I will be calling it for the rest of the video because fuck them long-ass titles. Congrats if you guessed this one. Remember, if you want to play along, all you gotta do is check out my community tab. That's where I post my hints to what next week's album is gonna be. I host polls where sometimes you get to pick what's on the show. I make announcements when I'm places that aren't here. You can find all of that on my channel. Alright, let's take the plastic off. Since this is a vinyl-centric channel, I always start my videos off with explaining what pressing I have. I feel it's important for contextualizing my review. What exactly did I hear? Ocean Boulevard has gotten quite a few vinyl variants. I thought I was gonna have to pick between the white, pink, red, or green for this video, all with different album art. That is, until the festival version, exclusive to Ms. Del Rey's website, was released. As B-roll Abby will be showing you, this run was on orange vinyl. That's cool and all, but the album art is what sold me. It's very in keeping with my style. This is a new design of the streaming service art originally photographed by Neil Krug. I love the swirling psychedelic pinks, oranges, purples, greens, even blue. It kind of reminds me of an oil spill. This cover also reminds me of Joni Mitchell's Ladies of the Canyon. Lana has covered a song from this album in the past. She's been known to spend a lot of time in Laurel Canyon. On the back, we have another photograph of Lana with our track listing and opening up the gatefold, an acid sun-drenched film photo of the seashore. We also have printed inner sleeves. I will be showing that off as well. I love how art-conscious Lana releases are. I mean, we saw it with Lust for Life a few years ago. Beautiful gatefold photography, printed inner sleeves, a color vinyl that goes with the art and the theme, Please Don't Rob My House. On Ocean Boulevard, we of course have Lana Del Rey on vocals, some percussion, I kid you not, the vape, and serving as principal songwriter. She's accompanied by a slew of guest and session musicians, including Drew Erickson on piano, synths, Wurlitzer, Hammond organ, and string arrangements, Zach Dawes of the Last Shadow Puppets on bass, R.I.P. the scrapped Lana Last Shadow Puppets album You Are Dearly Missed, Nick Waterhouse on guitar, and a string ensemble consisting of Christine Kim, Jake Braun, Andrew Bolbrook, Charlie Bisharat, Paul Cartwright, and Wynton Grant. Special guests include Melody Perry, Patty Howard, and Shakina Jones on backing vocals for the Grants and the title track, John Batiste on Candy Necklace and the interlude named after him, Father John Misty on Let the Light In, the members of Bleachers play on Margaret, Lana's sister Chuck Grant can be heard on Fishtail, Tommy Genesis is sampled on Peppers, and Pastor Judah Smith. We'll get to this later. Ocean Boulevard was produced by Mike Hermosa, Jack Antonoff, Zach Dawes, and Benji with Lana Del Rey. Roll transition. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the music, I want to very briefly contextualize Ocean Boulevard within the last 5-ish years of Lana's discography. I believe that explains some of why Ocean Boulevard is the way it is. Just about 5 years ago, Lana released Norman f***ing Rockwell, boasting a newer, refined approach to her songwriting. It was her most personal record to date. Like Ocean Boulevard, it was a double album. I feel most pop albums are double albums now. You can either credit or blame Miss Taylor Swift for that. NFR was released to widespread critical acclaim, but that didn't matter. It lost out on every Grammy it was nominated for, including Album of the Year. Lana gave a less than stellar SNL performance 12 years ago, and ever since then, the Academy is pretty blatantly biased against her. No, really, this isn't alluded to. An Academy member flat out admitted it. After this huge loss, Lana made a concerted effort to pivot away from the mainstream. She followed up NFR with Chemtrails Over the Country Club. Beautiful title track, awful album title, and just a mess of a record. Then came Blue Banisters, a compilation of re-recordings from her massive back catalog of unreleased material. Some wrote Blue Banisters off for this reason, others, like myself, praised it for that very same reason. After these stumbles, fans and critics alike were really hoping for something big from Lana, something that could really follow up her masterpiece. Sometime in 2022, I want to say, she announced a project called Rock Candy Sweet. This never came to fruition. She also teased a standards album that also didn't happen. Yeah, one thing to know about Ms. Del Rey is that when it comes to records, don't believe it until you not just see it, but physically have it in your hands. In late 2022/early 2023, we got the title track and A&W as our singles, so it's fair to say we didn't know what to think of this thing. I personally love when an artist does this with their singles, kind of a bait and switch, so people are surprised when the album drops. The track listing of Ocean Boulevard goes as follows. Opening up side 1, we have The Grants, followed by Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? I know I said I wouldn't say it again, but come on, it's fun to say. Then Sweet, and side 1 closes with A&W. Opening up side 2, we have the Judas Smith interlude, followed by Candy Necklace. Then the John Batiste interlude, and disc 1 closes with Kintsugi. Opening up disc 2, we have Fingertips, followed by Paris, Texas. Then Grandfather, Please Stand on the Shoulders of My Father While He's Deep Sea Fishing, and side 3 closes with Let the Light In. Opening up side 4, we have Margaret, followed by Fishtail, then Peppers, and the album closes with Taco Truck Venice Bitch. So from here on out, I'll be going track by track through Ocean Boulevard with 3 questions in mind. Number 1, what does this song communicate? 2, what does it mean in the greater context of the record? And 3, what do I think? Starting off with our grand introduction, The Grants, which doesn't start off so grand. The album begins with a false start. Melody and Patty flub the lyrics before the song begins in earnest. Mine with you and me. Mine. Say it again. If these two ladies sound familiar, it's because they are. They were Whitney Houston's backup singers. There are a lot of references to artists from the 60s and 70s on Ocean Boulevard, starting with this song. Lana name drops John Denver and his song Rocky Mountain High. She covered Take Me Home Country Roads not too long ago. A later verse responds to the Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell classic Ain't No Mountain High Enough. So many mountains too high to climb, so many rivers too long. The Grants establishes one of the core themes of the record, death. Death and the fantastical beyond has come up a lot in this woman's work. The Grants is at peace with death, while this era of her work is very much in the 60s girl group tradition of, I'll lay down and die if I don't have my man. There's no mention of a man on this song besides the advice Lana's pastor gave her. Instead, she remembers her firstborn niece and her grandmother. Lana is known for being quite dramatic. We have have big open piano chords, a sublime descending harmony under the coda. You can tell exactly when she joins Melody and Patty for a three-part harmony. Her voice is very distinct. As a longtime listener, when I think Lana Del Rey, I think strong presence of strings. The title track has that. No, Lana, I did not know there was a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard, but thank you for telling me. This question may seem totally out of the blue. What does this have to do with anything? I wrote it off too originally. Lana is trying on a new stream of consciousness writing style. There are hits and misses. This is a hit because it doesn't take her too long to explain what she means. I can't help but feel like my body marred my soul. Handmade beauty sealed up by two man-made walls. Like this decommissioned tunnel, our narrator feels great disconnect from the world around her. I touched on this element of the female experience in the Fleetwood Mac 75 review, I think, but one of the hard truths of being a woman is that once you're no longer physically conventionally beautiful, people just kind of stop listening to you. This is why I'm creating at the pace that I am. I want a solid body of work to speak for itself. This is amplified when you're a pop star. You have to constantly reinvent yourself to stay relevant, but Lana is an interesting case. Aside from writing from different geographical locations, Lana goes to New York, Lana goes to Europe, Lana goes to the suburbs. And becoming more introspective with time, she's written about pretty much the same thing. The title track holds a certain level of importance on the album. The artist cared enough to make this the thesis statement. Lana made a song about feeling like your expiration date is coming, repeatedly pleading for us not to forget her, turning to her old vices to cope. Male validation. This is the thesis of the album. This vulnerability is balanced, or perhaps accentuated, by sweeping strings. Once again, Lana references artists from the 70s, the Eagles' Hotel California, fantasizing about being friends with Harry Nilsson, and distant backing vocals reaching through the veil as if their voices whispering from the past. I'm Sweet sounds like a cut from Lana's past few piano ballad-based records. The chorus references yet another classic songwriter, Bob Dylan and his song Girl from the North Country. Lana clearly had the 60s and 70s on the brain while writing this. Chemtrails was an album about domesticity. Sweet revisits that. Our narrator yearns for domesticity with her lover, asking him if he wants to get married, have children, run marathons in Long Beach. She's not his first choice, but if he ever changes his mind, she'll be right there waiting for him. More classic Lana tropes, being the other woman and holding a candle. She's a modern torch singer if I've ever seen one. Her delivery is especially delicate and wistful over an especially involved string section. A&W is the longest song on the record, clocking in at just over 7 minutes, and you guys, I have been waiting to talk about this song. It simultaneously cements themes we've been working with on Ocean Boulevard and revives the classic Lana Del Rey persona. The original title of A&W was American Horror, but from my observations, while the album rollout was happening, it was retitled at the last minute. Very rarely, if ever am I afforded the luxury of experiencing the release of an album I talk about firsthand. A&W is both a revival of the Lana from 12 years ago and the beginning of her truest, most confessional self in writing. When I talk about A&W, I'm basically talking about two different songs here. The first half is scored by minimal guitar strums and rolling piano. The old school Lana character was a device to examine the dark side of womanhood womanhood, a woman caught up in society's seedy underbelly. This guy turns on the shower so he can call our narrator, only sees her for sex in a hotel room. It's very transactional. Maybe even literally transactional. I say I live in Rosemead, really I'm at the Ramada alludes to sex work. I'm a princess, I'm divisive, ask me why I'm like this. The sexually empowered woman is equally revered and reviled by men. Think the Madonna whore complex. The term princess invokes daddy issues, which the Lana character has always been open about. So far, A&W has been about accepting your fate as the one-dimensional good time girl until this verse. Look at my hair, look at the length of it and the shape of my body. If I told you that I was raped, do you really think anybody would think I didn't ask for it? I didn't ask for it. I won't testify, already fucked up my story. But then, perhaps the true thesis of the record, it's not about having someone to love me anymore. She abandons the never-ending chase for validation and welcomes the persecution. Middle fingers to the sky, this is the monster you created. Then there's the second half of the song. I know there are some Jack Antonoff haters out there. The cardinal sin of production is being homogenous, and he's been gleefully committing this sin for the past 6 years, but I believe when a producer and artist are truly compatible, they transcend their individual limitations and come together to make something great. I think of Amy Winehouse and Salam Raimi and Mark Ronson. The build into and back half of A&W is what happens when a producer is enamored by, obsessed with his artist. Jack is inspired by every little thing Lana does. That's why the sound of her vape is left in the song. Those who've only heard the back half of A&W via snippets that have gone viral on TikTok, they're missing out. It removes the song from not just the context of the record, but the context of itself. On its own, it's a banger, but as part of a 7-minute suite, it's a shock. It's stomach churning. This doesn't feel like a party, this feels like being high, and not the fun high. The sampled murmurs, whispers, and distorted vocals are straight up disorienting. I mean, it's still a banger, it's just dark. It's the musical representation of slipping back into your old ways to cope with some dark shit. The title track of Ultraviolence references 3 Jims in the lyrics: Jim Morrison, Jim Jones, and one of Lana's exes named Jim. When Shimmy Shimmy Coco Bop becomes a grimy, trippy, sinister trance on A&W. Its innocence corrupted.
Tell me what more of my wife and more of my friends.
Opening up the B-side, we have the Judah Smith interlude. For those of you who don't know, he's a pastor of a mega church and just super sketchy. Words of advice for you youngins: do not trust churches with logos. This interlude is one of his sermons set to music. Interludes are typically innocuous on a record. See the Heinz Baked Beans interlude on the Who Sell Out. Yes, that is a real thing. But because we know so little about the inner workings of Ms. Del Rey's life, we will never know whether the Judah Smith interlude is satire or not. To me, this is not an innocuous little interlude. It breaks the fourth wall. You're not gonna like this, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've discovered my preaching is mostly about me. Lana creates to fulfill herself and herself alone. She no longer seeks validation from anyone. I do have to take a moment to gripe about the occasional limitations of the vinyl format. This sermon works so much better directly following A&W. When it's on the other side of the record, there's a pause. You have to get up, flip it over. You're kind of taken out of the moment. With it opening the B-side, it gets disconnected from the narrative.
You've been acting pretty restless. It's like the young.
We return to ballad ground with Candy Necklace, but after A&W and Judah Smith, it feels different. We can never go home again. Lyrically, Candy Necklace is the tried and true Lana story of a volatile relationship, continuously invoking the young and the restless, a soap opera which my grandma watches. I don't listen to Candy Necklace for the lyrics. I'm a bit too disoriented to consider that at this point in the record. I listen for how intensely melodic like it is. When I hear the glissading faraway piano, I will literally never be able to unsee Lana playing this at Coachella. Everything about Candy Necklace feels far away. The distant noises just barely touch us through thick fog, adding depth to the composition. John is absent until the very end, tapping in just in time for his interlude. The Jon Batiste interlude is, despite sharp injections and a thick lo-fi treatment, an undone jam session between John and Lana. Or maybe it's just them kicking it in the studio. For the whole record so far, we've been given the product of the creative process. This interlude gives us a glimpse at how Lana works. We feel like we're sitting across the room while John and Lana are at the piano, having drinks, ad-libbing, just having fun together. She did this with Trio on Blue Banisters, and I ate that shit up. I have to briefly shout out the drummer on this track. Lana has some phenomenal jazz drummers on her records. That's part of what made Chemtrails Over the Country Club so good. The low, rumbling rolls feel like thunder and raucous laughter like lightning.
But they say that's how the light gets in.
The first disc rounds out with Kintsugi, yet another callback to an all-time great songwriter, Leonard Cohen, and his song Anthem. Just a couple weeks after Ocean Boulevard's release, Boy Genius referenced the very same song on their record. Just beautiful serendipity. Lana's Kintsugi is total stream of consciousness. She sings of her sister, the death of her beloved grandma, and musician and rumored ex Jack Donahue. She confesses to her father that she can't trust her intuition anymore after so much heartbreak, feeling blown wide open by it all. Completely exposed against her will. It reads like a voice memo sent to her producer at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's because it is. The arrangement was crafted around a simple tracking vocal, and what a beautiful arrangement it is. Deliberate, winding piano, and airy whistle that I promise will bring a tear to your eye.
And if I do, will you be there with me, brother, sister?
Opening up the second disc is Fingertips, another voice memo song. You know, now that I think of it, I feel like maybe the tracks most closely related to each other, you know, A&W and Judas Smith, Kintsugi and Fingertips, they were split up amongst sides of a disc so the record would be more cohesive. I don't know, just a thought. Tenuous a relationship as these topics may have, Lana rambles about everything from DNA research in scientific journals to her brother and sister, microdosing on psychedelics, and her preferred manner of burial. Fingertips is a song about facing her mortality, which, if the next verse is any indication, she may have done long ago. When I was 15, naked, neighbors did a drive-by, pulled me up by my waist, long hair to the beachside. I wanted to go out like you being her uncle, referenced earlier in the song, who died by his own hand. I'll admit, I was growing weary of the rambling until this. This is a shock to the system. Like on A&W, her delivery is so hushed that you might miss it on the first pass. Alluding to a suicide attempt is the kind of confession that only comes about when you're talking on the phone until the wee hours of the morning. That's what this song feels like, and in a truly heartbreaking turn, she reveals to the listener why she hasn't spoken to her mother in a long, long time. Instead of comforting Lana after she attempted to take her own life, Lana's mother berated her, then sent her away, first to boarding school, then out of the country. Exotic places don't take the place of being your child. Lana's mother rejecting her may very well be the reason she sought validation for so long. Paris, Texas was written around a pre-existing song by another artist titled I Wanted to Leave. It blew up on TikTok. This is likely how Lana heard of it as well. I don't have too much to say about this one other than it's a song about having escapist tendencies with a truly gorgeous melody thanks to the original composer of the song. grandfather please stand on the shoulders of my father while why the fuck is this title so long? Like Paris, this was also written around someone else's pre-existing tune. By this point, the fatigue is setting in. That's the problem about the double album format. These songs have to be really intentionally written and placed, especially when tracks are over 4 minutes long. It's a shame that my attention is wavering because this is a wonderfully produced song. The saxophones are reminiscent of Bon Iver's underrated masterpiece, 22 a Million. And this might be one of Lana's best vocal performances to date. She has honed her craft, expertly blending her head and chest voices. After getting some seriously heavy confessions off her chest, from here on out, the overall tone of Ocean Boulevard lightens. For a long time, Let the Light In was my favorite song on the record. This boasts the most overtly vintage-style production, the signature string section blended with folksy 12-string guitar and a synth that invokes a 60s keyboard. This is my favorite string arrangement on the record. Sticky, sweet, and sweeping, soaring when Lana's whisper-soft falsetto and Father John's harmony blend on the final chorus. It's wistful and romantic, well done to everybody on this track. Kicking off the last side of the record is Margaret. Man, I take my life into my own hands whenever I listen to this second disc. Why? I ugly cry to Margaret. This is one of the purest expressions of adoration I've ever heard. God, I wish love was real. This is a simple song, gonna write it for a friend.
My shirt is inside out.
Never change, Lana. She wrote this song about Jack Antonoff and his then-fiancé, current wife and muse, actress Margaret Qualley. Jack is joined on this track by his band Bleachers. If Greta Van Fleet is Nostalgia Lens Led Zeppelin, Bleachers is Nostalgia Lens Bruce Springsteen. They bring this track to life with saxophone and piano and an end-of-the-romance film waltz. They make Lana sound like she's singing at her best friend's wedding, serenading the happy couple. But it feels like watching love from the outside looking in. The spoken word feels like she's urging us to believe in love while convincing herself.
I can see you wanted me sadder.
I'll admit, I wrote off Fishtail for a long time. With its slightly lo-fi approach and chill trap beat, it feels like something off Lust for Life. You Wanted Me Sadder could address a lover with the tendency to white horse his ladies, or the audience for not responding to records Lana wrote in her happier times. Similar to Paris and Grandfather, Peppers interpolates a pre-existing song, this one by Tommy Genesis. Fucking banger! Lana has always been inspired by hip-hop and trap, see several collaborations with A$AP Rocky and Playboi Carti. Excellent drum fills, kudos to this drummer. I can tell Peppers was made with the express purpose of being played live. I can see a band having a lot of fun with this.
Stop what you say. I know that you hate me.
Taco Truck is an odd album closer, and no, I'm not just talking about the Lanita line. She samples herself, Venice Bitch, a track off NFR. It is intriguing that Lana would so blatantly link Ocean Boulevard back to NFR this way. It's more of a head-bobbing, jazzy, then trip-hop finale to the greater body of work. Kind of like the equal and opposite A&W, it plays us out as we absorb what we've just experienced. Surely Lana was rewarded in some way by bearing her innermost soul on this record, right? Right? Though it produced a vocally weak but otherwise frankly iconic headlining set at Coachella, motorcycles and all, Ocean Boulevard met the exact same fate as NFR. But you know, I really hope this doesn't deter Lana from creating more work like this. I know she maybe allegedly has a country album on deck. Again, I'll believe it when I own it. Long-winded as this may be, this is Lana's greatest writing since NFR. It's so annoying that her image from her early career and work that I loved as a teen with some deep-seated issues. It annoys me that because of those things, critics will just refuse to take her seriously. That's part of why I'm in this line of work, to exalt what moves me. This album hit me like a fucking truck. I did not see it coming. Expertly, intentionally crafted with soul-crushing intimacy and earnesty. I laughed at the Inside Out shirt and the Lanita line. I cried at Fingertips and Margaret. I felt physically ill at A&W. I danced until I was physically ill to Peppers. I can't wait to keep living this record because it wears well like vintage jeans. I will be shouting this from the rooftops for the rest of my career. Lana Del Rey is not just a concept. She's a flawed, multifaceted, massively influential artist. She crafted a persona we will be talking about for decades to come. That's gotta count for something. And while it's too soon to say whether or not Ocean Boulevard is a modern classic, Lana Del Rey is. My personal favorites off this one are A&W, Candy Necklace, Let the Light In, Margaret, and Peppers. Remember, if you want to keep up with all of my favorites from all of the Vinyl Mondays and all the mod months, I have a Spotify playlist linked in my description. I update it every week. Though we're through with covering the album, we're not actually done here. I cannot believe I am making this big of an announcement while dressed like this. No, hold on. This. But that's honestly the most youtube.com/Abigail DeVoe way this thing could have possibly gone. You guys, I've been hiding something from you. Back in April, I woke up to a message from online vintage style personality and fellow rock and roll woman, Emma Rosa Caterina. If you're hip to my corner of the internet, you probably know who she is. She's a way bigger deal than me. Emma is wonderful, one of the sweetest, most genuine people I've come across in this line of work. Her channel is what youtube.com/Abigail DeVoe was supposed to be before the whole Vinyl Monday thing took off. All about vintage style, home decorating, fashion history, and the culture of the 60s and 70s, plus a little vlogging. From the looks of it, the thrift stores in her home country of Germany are so much better than ours in the States. Emma's message was somewhere along the lines of, "Hey Abby, I have an idea for a project I'd like to do with you. Could I email you the details?" Important context, she messaged me on April 1st, so I honestly thought that it was an April Fool's joke or otherwise just a one-off collab on a post. That is, until she sent me the full project proposal for a podcast, all about the women of the 60s and 70s. And she wanted me as her co-host. A week from today, as of me posting this, on May 31st, the pilot episode of Unveiling the Legends, Dolls of the 60s and 70s, or simply the Dolls podcast, will be live. Emma wrote our first episode about a figure very close to her heart. She worked in the film industry for some time, so it was only natural for our pilot episode to be about an actress. We'll be posting new episodes every other Friday to anywhere you stream your podcasts. Emma, thank you so much for choosing me to help bring your concept to life. And that's it. That's Modern Classics Week 3 and my big announcement. Anyway, what do you think of Ocean Boulevard? Leave a comment letting me know. I love hearing what you guys have to say about albums that I love. And remember, despite what some guy on the internet has to say, your opinion matters. If you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post new episodes of Vinyl Monday every Monday morning at 11, and the fourth and final part of Mod Month, along with the pilot episode of the Dolls podcast next Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!